You're planning on traveling to Bali, Indonesia. First of all, that's so exciting. I've traveled to Bali twice in the past year, and the island of the gods has definitely shaped me in multiple ways. In this video, I'm going to share with you how to plan your dream trip to Bali, specifically for American or US-based travelers. Let's go. First of all, how do you get to Bali? So, in order to get to Bali from the United States, it's quite the journey. I think that's why a lot of US-based travelers will often opt to go to places like Costa Rica or Hawaii over Bali, which, by the way, I've been asked a lot after living in Hawaii and after spending a lot of time in Bali, what the differences are and which I recommend, which can be a little bit of a controversial topic, so I might tiptoe around it, or I might make a video. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. But basically, to get there from the US, the most straightforward way is to fly, and you're gonna probably take multiple flights. Multiple airlines offer flights from major US cities to Bali's Ngurah Rai International Airport with at least one layover. So to get there from the east coast of the United States, from Washington, D.C., for the way out, I flew from Washington Dulles to Frankfurt to Bangkok, and then Bangkok to Bali. And then on the way home, I flew from Bali to Bangkok to Tokyo, and then Tokyo back to Washington, D.C. Around 30 to 40 hours of travel each way, including layover time and flight time, and the longest flight being 14 hours. It's pretty mind-blowing. It's quite a journey, but it's worth it. I would recommend booking in advance and using a booking tool like Google Flights for monitoring flight drops to get the best deal on your flight. I have a video on my top 10 suggestions for traveling, best travel hacks and everything. Be sure to check out that video. I have all my tips in there for things to know and flight how-tos and tips. So once you get to Bali, how do you get around? Before you arrive, I recommend downloading Gojek or Grab for the best options to get around Bali. These apps are basically the Uber equivalent, but for Bali. They don't have Uber there, so you're gonna be using Gojek or Grab if you want to get around. That's how I'd recommend getting from the airport to your accommodation, is calling a Gojek. That's the one that I personally use to go everywhere. I've tried so many times, but I can't connect my card to it, so I personally extract cash, and then I use that cash, the Indonesian rupiah, to exchange everywhere I need to go. And I use the money exchange app called Currency Converter. You can basically put in any currency of the world and have it convert to United States dollars, so you can very quickly know what is what. At the time of making this video, 2023, approximately 100,000 Indonesian rupiah is around $7 US. And so that's the quick conversion I do in my head, because I find a lot of things like quick taxis and foods are around that amount. So it's really helpful to know that quick conversion in your head. The other ways to get around in Bali would be to get your own motorbike or hire a driver. And so I really trust Your Man in Bali. When in Bali, he has helped me so much, from transport to day trips to going from the airport, and even last year for renting a motorbike. He is an amazing person to hit up for any of your transport needs in Bali, and I strongly recommend. And then the other option that I mentioned is renting a scooter or a motorbike. With this one, I would practice caution. The motorbike situation in Southeast Asia, specifically Bali, is absolute insanity. My life update video from last year shares my motorbike accident story. Long story short, there was an electricity wire off the side of the road around my neck. And once you go there and see the electricity wires, it's a little bit crazy. And so just be really careful with the motorbike situation. Always wear your helmet. Make sure you have an international driving permit. Although they say they won't check, they have started to check, and it is really important to have that permit and wear your helmet and just be safe. I personally do not ride the motorbikes anymore, and I hire Gojeks anywhere and everywhere that I need to go. It comes out to be like a few dollars to get to almost everywhere I want to go when I'm there during my trip. And if not, I'll hire a driver for a day trip, and that's just like safer and better and more convenient. And yeah, I strongly would recommend that. Otherwise, don't really expect to walk around in Bali, especially in concentrated busy places like Canggu or Seminyak or Kuta. There's really no sidewalk room for you to walk, and it's actually more dangerous to walk. There are nice beaches and stuff that you can stroll around, but the main transport ways are motorbike or car. How long should you stay in Bali? So since you're flying from the other side of the world, I would recommend staying for 2 weeks if you can, but a week will be an adequate amount of time to see all of the highlights and really get that Bali experience. but I would recommend 2 weeks since it is such a journey to get there. What time of year should you visit? So Bali is a tropical island. It has a tropical climate, and so it's warm all year round. The main differences are that there's a rainy season and there's a dry season. The best times to visit are during the dry season, which is from April to September, and specifically I would recommend the shoulder seasons of that. So like right at the beginning of that range, like April and then September, because during the peak summer months like July and August, it's going to be super busy and crowded, but also the peak time to go. And then I would try to avoid it during the rainy season, the winter months if you can. It's tropical monsoon type rains that can come through and mess with a lot of the water system, and I've heard a lot of horror stories on the water situation during rainy season that link to Bali Belly. And so yeah, I would try to recommend going during the dry season or the shoulder seasons. I visited in April last year and I visited in June this year, and I had great experiences both times. What should you pack for your trip to Bali? So you'll find that in Bali, it's an island, it's island life, so people are wearing a lot of loose, light, breathable clothing that also might offer you sun protection. I love these Free People movement tanks and flowy pants and like light scarves and layers to wear all around. I would also recommend mosquito repellent and sunscreen for your trip, because especially in places like Ubud, the mosquitoes are notorious and can carry things like diseases like dengue fever. And so definitely be careful and cautious of that, and bring your bug spray and sunscreen. And I would also recommend any tablets you might need for sicknesses like Bali Belly that can definitely happen, and so bring your tablets from home that you're more comfortable with. And something that you'll also need while you're around the island is cash, and so there are a lot of ATMs everywhere, and so you can easily extract your cash there. And then you should bring your power adapters and cords, passport, and your favorite snacks. Where should you go for your trip to Bali? Check out my top 10 things to do during your trip to Bali video. I have all my favorite spots in there, from the best beaches, activities, experiences, and even a place that's not in Bali but a quick flight over, still in Indonesia. Bali really has something for everyone, from surf lovers to mountains and adventures and cultural, spiritual, food experiences. There's really everything, and Bali really is a special shaping place with that Mama Bali energy. What food should you try for your trip to Bali? I would recommend checking out my friend Susan at Gypsy and Sneakers video. She is basically Bali queen. All of her food videos on Bali are so amazing. She tries all these local dishes, and she's taken me to really cool spots as well, like Warung Local, to try local food that is more comfortable for a Western gut, because it is a place that a lot of people go to. It's right in Canggu, and so you could trust that there's a lot of rotation of the food there. Then I would also recommend checking out the local dishes like nasi goreng, which is a fried rice, and satay, so skewered and grilled meat. And then also all the delicious local fruit like dragon fruit. Truly delicious. Bali has an amazing food scene, and in my What to Do in Bali video, I list all of my favorite cafes and restaurants to check out. There are so many fun smoothie bowls and acai bowls and Western dishes, local dishes, everything that you try out. And what I really love about the food in Bali is the presentation as well, and all of the fruit juices. Every meal I get a fruit juice. It's just so delicious. And also daily coconuts in Bali. A few dollars, you get a giant young coconut, and it's just delicious and so healing, especially when you're in a tropical climate like that and you're sweating a lot. The electrolytes in the coconut are just like natural medicine. It's truly nature's medicine. So these are some other important things to know for your trip to Bali. First thing that's good to know is that English is widely spoken in tourist areas, so you should not have a problem with communicating in English, but it is always nice and respectful to try to learn a few words in the local language when you visit. And so locals will love if you could ask them how to say hello or thank you and things like that. The local currency is the Indonesian rupiah, and ATMs are widely available all around the island. Just be really careful to cover the PIN when you're inputting your code. Be aware of the customs when visiting the temples, such as covering your shoulders and legs. Just always aim to be respectful of local traditions when you travel to new areas. And then the other topic that I have been asked about a lot and I want to talk about is Bali Belly. This is basically a version of food poisoning that happens for travelers who go to Bali. It happens to almost every single person I've met that's traveled to Bali from like the Western world. And so it's basically that our gut bacteria isn't used to the foods there. And Bali Belly, although is something that also happens to the locals sometimes, it has to do with the circulation of the sewage and the food and just the cleanliness of everything on the island. Sometimes, especially when it rains heavy, the food can get contaminated and you'll get Bali Belly, which is basically this like really sick nausea slash diarrhea slash crumpled over type feeling where you won't feel well. The best ways to try to avoid that is basically to 1, drink bottled water, stick to bottled water and avoid the tap. And also try to not get ice in your drinks. I always say no ice if possible. And then stick to well-cooked hot foods. Try to avoid raw or undercooked seafoods and meats, as well as unpeeled fruits and raw vegetables, as these can harbor bacteria or be washed with water that's not safe for you to have on the foods. And so I always try to get cooked foods, stay away from salads and stuff like that when traveling, especially. Yeah, it's healthier, but then it might not end up being healthier if you get sick from it. And so that's just a go-to tip. Eat at reputable places. So always try to eat at places that are busy, that you see have a line, a lot of reviews, people coming in and out. Read the Google reviews so you can see how the food situation is from other travelers. Next, practice hand hygiene. So washing your hands, using hand sanitizer, things like that, especially after touching cash. And then stay hydrated. If you get sick, hydration is key. Drink a lot of water. Coconuts especially, and the flesh from the coconut will be really helpful for curing Bali Belly. The one thing that I did when I got Bali Belly is call for a drip IV, an IV infusion from Saline IV in Bali. There are a lot of different companies that offer this, but basically you can hire the nurse to come to you. It's almost $200 US. It's quite a bit of an investment, but it is basically like a quick 10-hour fix to feeling better from Bali Belly. It's such an awful feeling when you get it because you're in paradise and you're like, I don't want to feel like this, because you're like in your bed and you can't move. And then the drip IV is basically an IV infusion through your vein, and it goes straight to your bloodstream, replenishes everything, gives you electrolytes, anti-nausea, anti-diarrhea, all the things that you need to feel better. So that's the solution that I've found that works best to Bali Belly. The other tip that I would recommend is to watch your phone when out partying. There are a lot of great parties and dance spots to go to in Bali, but phone theft is quite common. And so try to be aware of your phone. I always have this strap if I want to take my phone out. Otherwise, I keep it in my purse and in front of me so I can keep an eye on it. Also, the other thing is that this is something that I want to raise awareness about with traveling to Indonesia, is that there is trash almost everywhere that you look. Every side of the road, every waterfall, every hike, there's trash, and there's plastic too, which isn't going to go anywhere basically unless someone picks it up. And so please practice leave no trace when exploring beautiful natural places. Our planet is our home. Think of all the animals and the wildlife and the nature that's there. Like, really try to protect it. That's all my tips for planning your trip to Bali. Hopefully this was helpful to you. My name is Mahna Ghafori. If it was, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you enjoy your trip to Bali. And if you have any questions, comment them down below. Check out my other Bali travel guides, and I'll see you in the next video.